Okay, thank you indeed. So what we're moving on to now is, before they start to address that challenge, we'll bring out a fishbowl here of 4 or 5 people.
Hello, my name's Luday. So yeah, I'm just busy processing everything that you've said, so as we introduce ourselves, is that okay that you can process and then start asking questions?
Yes, go ahead, yeah.
Kia ora koutou. Thank you for your time today. I'm Charlotte. I'm going to jump straight into my first question. I hope I'll find my way through because it's getting quite messy on my notebook. So I guess my main question was around resources. You've mentioned before that you are a charitable trust. So I was just wondering if currently you get any support from the government, but also from the community. Are you quite well known by the local community? Do you have any support from them? And also I had a few questions around your structure. What kind of people can we find at EcoQuest? Is there any scientists or engineers? And yeah, I'll stop here because I guess that's already quite a few questions in my first question.
Thank you, Charlotte. Yeah. In terms of financial support, we've never really sought that actively. We know that there's a real capacity for doing that, and that's something we know we should be able to build, especially with our US community, because we're training their bright young minds and their futures, and so we see that as a potential. We do have great support from our local communities. We have government, of course, really good COVID relief, because we're recognised as an asset to because of the quality education, high value, high monetary value. So the government is supporting us with a wage package. So that's really enables us to survive through this this time of no income. But in terms of our other supports, we have a really good relationship with, particularly with Ngāti Pawa, Ngāti Whanaunga, and we're in the process of exploring ways in which we can participate in their achieving their aspirations educationally and materially. So that's a real asset, as well as number of other communities where we've done education and or research and monitoring to support their outcomes. So yeah, those are our assets, I suppose, our resources.
Yeah, you're asking after our team. So we have principally got natural science people on board. We don't employ engineers as such, but we have a massive amount of experience that Steve has brought from his involvement with big other ventures and companies. And so engineers, strictly speaking, probably a no, Steve, would you agree?
Yeah. I think sort of the academics, they're all PhDs, so they're all pretty clued up. Yeah. And the rest of us are working hard to try and support all of that.
Thank you so much.
Kia ora koutou, ko Kevin Tutotapu Ingo, no Waikato ahu, ko Mangatangi Te Marae, Murio ki te reo Pākehā. My question is, was there any previous research done on your guys' yeah, on your the stuff that you're doing now?
So, are we look specifically in, sorry, kia ora. Specifically in what our challenge is that what you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, cool, all right. We have had some ramblings in the past looking specifically at our septic systems and wastewater. We've been basically relying heavily on Steve's recent explorations and previous experience into where we might head with this. Would you like to say more about that, Steve?
Yeah, so there are a couple of really good examples of some of the stuff that we're trying to do. One that springs to mind is the Sustainable Coastlines Flagship Education Centre in Auckland. And that is built using a lot of the same principles that we've been talking about in terms of being adheres to the Living Building Challenge, can be easily dismantled and relocated elsewhere, and so on. So we do have some case studies and people in groups to talk to that will try and give us some guidance along the way. And I believe Sustainable Coastlines had a very similar issue in terms of very little financial capacity when they embarked on this project. They're also not-for-profit and so on. So that's a really good one.
Just going back to your evolution challenge, have you guys tried any other products, or have you tried any other products?
Yeah, we do have, I mean, in terms of the things that we've put in place, we started with no money. We mortgaged our properties to make this work, and we bootstrapped ourselves into existence really, and we bought, the current site was a motor camp, and I think we've always approached from a scarcity approach, so we haven't looked to throw lots of money at it. We've always been very frugal and using local labour where we could, and so it's that sort of appropriate technology, appropriate input from locals where possible. So that's one thing. We have installed a solar hot water system, which has it's quite good capacity, and that made a difference. So that was, and we've been sort of looking at solar electricity, but it's sort of always, when do we jump? And we're actually poised to do quite a bit of, to really consider some of those infrastructure developments, and then COVID hit. And so took the carpet from under our feet.
Kia ora koutou.
Kia ora.
Hello team, I'm Phong, and my question is regarding to the COVID-19 pandemic. So as you know, the vaccine will come out, and maybe the government will open the borders soon, maybe hopefully this year. And so any plans for your organization after the pandemic open, like recruit the international student?
Yeah, so we have students fully enrolled, lined up in case we qualify and the sky's open and the borders open. Even for our second semester this year, if that was remotely possible, and it doesn't look very possible. But we do not lack custom. Like we have people queued up, keen to come here. And so really it does depend on those vaccines and the borders opening, but for sure we would re-engage. And having said that, we are quite, the opportunity of COVID, if you will, has been for us to look more locally, and we would like to think that we would stay with developing opportunities for Kiwis right alongside our international business, and have those interact quite heavily, so that there is, more more and maybe better or more exciting learning both ways, because I think, we do have a lot to offer, and our business certainly, would survive and thrive. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, I've been processing. So what I'm understanding from what the information you're imparting to us, there's a twofold challenge here in terms of one leans towards fundraising and the other one is the design that we're doing economically sustainable enough? Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, very much so. Is it, and within that are the solutions that we are developing that will work for us, will they work for other communities around, especially, initially in Kaiawa, the Wharakawa coast, but also there are communities all around New Zealand and the world in the same situation. So I see we're participating in the global challenge. Yes, yes, if we find an angel investor, well, that would be wonderful too. Yeah.
In terms of the design, the little sketch that you showed us, is that like a set in stone, or is there reasoning behind why you went for the shipping container besides the recyclable cladding is easier, pick up in a lorry? Is there other avenues that you potentially looked at, or other materials and design elements?
So, would you like, Steve, you go.
Yeah, so basically that design is simply one way of addressing the different criteria that we put there, partially based, on what we see happening at Sustainable Coastlines, have taken a very similar approach. So it kind of ticks a lot of the boxes in terms of flood resistant, easily movable and so on, but certainly not cast in stone, and we would be open to other alternatives. Bearing in mind that the evolution block is just one part of the overall site, and we're purely using that as our starting point because that's where the greatest need is at the moment.
One of the other aspects in terms of our development, as I said, it's always shoestring, and a good portion of our student accommodation is in those little 10 square metre cabins, which don't require consent. You can throw them on the back of a truck and move them easily. So we've always had that sort of light on the ground aspect for that. We also, our main building that we had to get in place to be able to deliver our programs was what we call our wharakai, which is also our whare. It is our teaching space and our kitchen, and we'd love to have two of those, but we've got one, and that we bought from Pukatutu Island in Māngere, and brought it back down here on a truck, and we bought about a month before we were due to use it. We bought a second-hand commercial kitchen from a hotel that was closing down, and we put that into service. So we converted what was the office for a quarry, has become our much-loved wharakai. So we've thoughtfully repurposed things. So that's our. It's a very, you could call it number 8 wire, but it's also recognising, I think, we need to get away from slick, high, flash. We've got to understand what buildings are for and what they don't need to reflect. They need to reflect a sustainable future.
Yeah, and we are hopeful that there is multiple options out there that maybe manufacturers might be keen to have them showcased here. So people can come and visit, they can see what it's like, how does it work, why does it work, would it work in my place, why not? You know, so that, you know, there is some resistance to, for example, composting toilets around, but often because people haven't sat on one and haven't used one, you know, and so maybe there's 5 we could show, maybe there are other things on our site that would tie in really nicely. There is, you know, it's an open invitation to think and walk along this path of what it might look like here. Yeah.
We're really excited for you to come and actually have a look. And of course, we've got our student accommodation that is not being used at the moment, so maybe we can arrange a bit of a ticket tour of EcoQuest. It would be great.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Sorry, just to finish off, is there any business leaders within your network that we could potentially have access to or work from?
What can we think of?
Well, I guess in terms of
or I can maybe potentially rephrase, is there like a Midas that is close to the shoreline that could be affected by floods? So that type of business that the flooding could affect that and things like that?
What do you reckon? Can you think of...
can you just say that again?
So trying to rephrase my original question was, are there any businesses that could be affected within your community by flooding that you have access to or know of within your network?
Well, I guess businesses, of course we know everyone here, and there are, it's a rural community, but you know, we know the people that have the gas station, and they're equally vulnerable. The shop is even more vulnerable, and so they're all small businesses. But we also have the marae. There are a number of there's a papakainga housing that is right on the coast, and it's really vulnerable. So it's not a business. It's better than a business. It's called Pingao Trust. It has so they're facing the same challenge where they've got papakainga housing right on the beach. It gets flooded and on the coast. And they're looking at, well, how do we move up the hill? What can we do? So I see that, and there's a lot of Māori land around here, and so that's just one whānau hapu entity, and so we think that by exploring that we could add value to their considerations and perhaps their solutions.
One question, so I've been handed a couple actually. I think we sort of covered the first one before. Do you have any student group that would be willing to join in the project that we could connect with? But apart from student, is there any other group or partners maybe that could be motivated to join in?
Just off the top of my head, we've got Engineers Without Borders is a US-based entity that we have a connection with, who could possibly help with engineering solutions, and that is I guess has parallels to your. It would be graduates and undergraduates who would be able to contribute. So that's one, and that's international. we also have our partly hibernated part of our operation in Te Tauihu, Te Waka a Maui, which is the northern part of the South Island, based around Motueka. So where we began our Sustainable Agriculture and Food Systems Aotearoa program, our very first one got cut off in the middle of COVID. So we have a network there, and so we're still working with that community, and there may be possibilities through that community.
Okay, thanks very much. So what's going to happen now, they're going to go away and work for about 15 minutes. We've had plenty of questions coming through what we call our internal internet here. So some people will continue to speak with you to get answers to those questions while the groups huddle down and work. So feel free to stay online. And then we'll be presenting back to you in about 20 minutes. Okay. So the challenge is on. Get into your groups and be prepared to put up your design brief for what you think will edge, not necessarily the whole program forward, but some aspect of their wish list, their dream list.